Good evening and welcome to European Athletics live coverage of the Starperche Bordeaux, the second stage of the Perche Elite Tour. It's going to bring together a horde of France's best pole vaulters along with a cast of international jumpers this evening. The venue, you can see it's very dark there in front of you at the moment, is the Palais des Sports in Bordeaux. Athletes just about to be introduced for this event, which is organised by Stade Bordelais Athlétisme, the local athletics club, and Objectif Perche Atlantique. So 10 men, 10 women, 2 events this evening, kicking off, or jumping off I should say, in just a few minutes time. And there is a wealth of international class talent in there, with a number of Olympic finalists, medalists at events like the World University Games, and many athletes who will be seeing later this year lighting up championships from the European Indoor Championships and World Indoors in March onwards towards those World Athletics Championships in September. It is an intimate venue, but it's perfectly sized for this kind of event. And we're preparing right now for the athletes' introductions. The 2 events will run simultaneously, the men and the women, so no waiting around and no track action to distract us this evening. The only track that matters is that strip of runway leading up to that pole vault mat. So, as I mentioned, 10 men. Here is the first of them to be introduced, which is Ismaila Sawana of France, the 20-year-old. He has an outdoor personal best of 5:50. Competes for the club Stade Sottevillers. It's going to be one man and one woman at a time. And they're already warmed up, ready to roll, and a good crowd in the arena already. Gabine Mété of France, a real up-and-comer of French pole vaulting, just 19 years old. 5:51 he jumped on the first leg of the Perche Tour last week. Berenice Petit, another local athlete, will have plenty of support, the 26-year-old, this evening. Her personal best indoors, 4:33. Back over to the men, and the Spanish Armada have arrived. Is Juan Luis Bravo, 21-year-old up-and-comer, competes for the Pamplona club, personal best of 5:55 indoors. Elise Roussis of France, 21-year-old, will be another one to watch here this evening. Plenty of support, no doubt. Indoor personal best of 4:35, outdoor best 4:40. Owen Hurd, the sole British athlete in action this evening, coached by former British record holder Kate Rooney. Owen has a personal best of 5:60 outdoors, 5:51 indoors. And it is the Italian Maria Roberta Girca there coming out. She has a best of 4:41 outdoors, and she'll be looking to challenge her indoor PB of 4:40 this evening. And there are a couple of Chinese athletes here tonight. This is one of them, Chen Yang Li, the 21-year-old, personal best outdoors of 5:60. Indoor best was set just last week on the Perche Tour, 5:51. He's in flying form. How high can he go this evening? Andrea San Jose of Spain, 27-year-old, has a best indoors of 4:42. That's a few years old now, but she'll be looking to get back to those heights this evening. And back on the men's, it is Tristan Desprez, 22-year-old, turned 22 just a few days ago. He's a personal best indoors of 5:57, outdoor best of 5:62. Alban Dordan will have a lot of home support this evening. The 26-year-old French woman. Her indoor personal best, 4:46. And an Italian, a real promising up-and-coming Italian vaulter, 20-year-old Simone Bertelli. He's a personal best outdoors of 5:63. indoors. 5:55 is his best. And he jumped 5:51 just last week on the Perche Tour. Sonia Malavisi. Anyone who's been following pole vault will know all about Sonia Malavisi. Very experienced Italian athlete, 30 years old. All of 12 years ago, she was European under-20 bronze medalist. And she has a personal best indoors of 4:50. This is the second of the Chinese athletes. This is Song Hao Wang, 22-year-old with a personal best outdoors of 5:71. Best indoors dates back to 2023. That's 5:60. And a great introduction there from Pascal Stücklin, the 27-year-old Swiss vaulter. Her indoor personal best was actually set at the Zurich Diamond League, which was an indoor event last summer, 4:52. But she has soared over 4:60 outdoors. Onwards and upwards, Valentin Levillenie will need no introduction to anyone. He's got the face covered this evening. Impressive introduction. Of course, Levillenie is a 5:85 vaulter indoors, 5:82 outdoors, but those personal bests a few years old now. Another familiar face to all in world pole vaulting, but especially Italian athletics, Roberta Brunei. The 30-year-old Italian, a 6-time Italian champion outdoors, 5-time Italian champion indoors. And she soared over 4:73 at her best. 4:65 her best indoors. Baptiste Thierry, an up-and-coming star of French athletics, 23 years old now. He is a 5:75 vaulter outdoors and indoors. Can he challenge that? Each week on the first leg of the Perche Tour. And this lady will have a lot of support this evening. This is Marie-Julie Bonin. You can hear the roar there, the difference in noise already as she is introduced. She competes for the home club, Stade Bordelais Athlétisme. And she's in flying form, already over 4:51 just last week at the Perche Elite Tour, the first leg on the Perche Tour in Super de Voyolui last week up at altitude. So look out for Bonin this evening. So those are your 20 athletes, 10 men, 10 women, competing on, well, almost parallel runways. And I mentioned Bonin, they saved her for last, the local athlete. You could hear the crowd really respond as she was introduced. She was the European under-23 gold medalist back in 2023 and the French outdoor champion last year.
Moi je propose, si tu le veux bien, contexte un petit peu notre jury avant de lancer ces décidants secours. Notre public ici présent a un parole. Vous a dit que vous avez mis dans une équipe rouge ou jaune. Et donc je vais vous demander, si vous le voulez bien, tous ceux qui ont un rouge rouge de faire la maximum de bruit.
So a fantastic atmosphere in the arena this evening to watch these vaulters. They will be cheering on all the athletes, no doubt, but of course the locals will be getting an extra surge of adrenaline with the noise created. Indoor athletics always creates a special atmosphere. Many of these athletes will be looking towards championships in the months ahead, but this evening is all about getting off on the right foot in 2025. Many of them, of course, as I mentioned on some of those introductions, competed already last week on the Perche Elite Tour, the challenger event in Super de Voyoli, up at altitude in the south of France. But now they're in Bordeaux. The air is not so thin, and we're ready to get underway. This is Jade El Houzi, 391, her opening attempt, and you can hear the crowd there. Responds warmly. She is up and over, is El Houzi, the 19-year-old. Competes for AC Paris Joinville. Personal best outdoors of 4:10, but she's jumped a personal best indoors of 4:16 just last week in Super de Voyoli. So an impressive start there, up and over 391 with no issues for Jade El Houzi. And over on the men's runway, Ismaila Savane, the 20-year-old Frenchman, attempts 5:18, but no joy there. Aborted mission on the way up. Knew it wasn't right, knew that plant just wasn't as he wanted it, but he'll have 2 more attempts to go over 5:19, the opening height on the men's side. Next up, it is the French teenager Gabine Maté, just 19 years old. As I mentioned when he was introduced, a lifetime best, indoors or outdoors, of 5:51 just last week on the Perche Tour. What can he produce this evening? 5:18, you would think shouldn't be too big an issue for him. First attempt, and he is comfortably clear of that. Gets a good cheer from the crowd. He was the French under-20 indoor champion last year. And the 19-year-old looks to be getting 2025 off to a truly flying start. He had room to spare over that one. So we're back to the women's competition, and Jade El Houzi will be taking her second attempt at 391. Competed at the World Under-20 Championships last year, did El Houzi, finished 8th over there. Back in 2022, she was the French Under-18 champion, and as I mentioned, a lifetime best of 4:16 last week on the Perche Tour. Can she replicate that this evening? El Houzi tears down the runway with those long strides. 4:06 she's moved the bar up to, in fact. And it is a failure at the first attempt. But 2 more to come for El Houzi. Just Having a discussion there with her coach, no doubt getting some technical feedback. So back to the men's competition, and it is Juan Luis Bravo of Spain, the 21-year-old. His first attempt at 5:18. Jumped a best of 5:55 indoors last year and jumped 5:36 last week, so shouldn't have too many issues at this height, and doesn't. I think he was celebrating before his legs even went over that bar. He knew he'd got the plant correct, and he becomes the second man to go over 5:18. So entering the competition, it is Maria Roberta Gerca of Italy, the 24-year-old. Has a best indoors of 4:40. She cleared 4:30 just last week. Can she get over 4:06 here, our opening height? And it just veers off. Lost control of that in a scary landing perhaps there. We couldn't quite see it, but she veered fully to the right of that mat. I think thankfully just landed towards the edge of it. Certainly doesn't look to be worse for wear after that. Just goes over and has a chat with her coach. Obviously something amiss there, because that is all lost vertical height when you're veering that far to the right, as Gerka was there. Back to the men's competition, and it is Owen Hurd, the 23-year-old Loughborough student. That factory of champions, Loughborough University. Can he get over 5:18 at the first attempt? He can, with room to spare. This is his first competition of 2025, but he looks to have wintered well, because he's coming out with a very impressive clearance there. He was 5th in the Commonwealth Games, was Hurd, back in 2022. As I mentioned when he was introduced, coached by Kate Rooney, formerly Kate Dennison, former British record holder in the pole vault. We're racing along at lightning speed here. And back to the women's competition. It is Andrea San Jose, the 27-year-old Spanish athlete. Opening jump for her, 4:06. She has a best of 4:42 indoors. At her best, this would be no problem. But that wasn't quite right. 4:16 she cleared last week in Super de Voyoli. So, 2 more attempts for San Jose to find her way. Still very much early days. A lot of the heavy hitters of this event staying firmly planted in those seats. They're just continuing their warm-ups. They won't be entering until later heights. But back on track. This is Song Haoyang. 5:60 vaulter indoors at his best. Great height there, but just the positioning not quite right. You can see his centre of gravity was almost before the bar rather than over or beyond it. And he just came down. His arc just came down right on that bar, but clearly has the height. The 22-year-old, look at that there. His feet were out in front of him, just not close enough at all to that bar. But he is a world-class vaulter, is Haoyang. 5:71 at his best. So, Alban Dordan, lots of support from the home crowd as she attempts 4:06, but no joy for her. She did go over 4:16 last week on the Perche Tour, but doesn't get the ideal start this evening. The local athlete, lots of support no doubt she will have, along with Marie-Julie Bonin, both coached by Daniel Dosevi at the club. Here is a familiar face. It is Valentin Lavillenie. .518 should be comfortable for a man of his talents, a man of his ability, but he's just figuring out where he's at as we start 2025. Great speed on the runway, fantastic elevation, and no surprise to see Lavillenie soar over that. So often referred to, of course, as the younger brother of Renaud Lavillenie, but he is 33 years now, so he's kind of entering the autumn of his career, is Valentin Lavillenie, but room to spare there, so we'd expect to see him going much higher than that. Back on the runway, and it's the turn of the women. And it is Sonia Malavisi, her opening jump at 4:06. In the familiar yellow colours of Fiamme Gialle, that powerhouse of Italian athletics, the club. Can she get over? No. It was close. It was very close. But Malavisi will have to make the necessary corrections for attempts 2 and possibly 3 to come. But certainly looked to have the height, did the 30-year-old. Again, just veering a little bit out to the right there. A little bit of lost vertical inches perhaps with that. But certainly capable. So this is a second attempt for Ismaila Savannah of France, and he again, something just amiss on that runway, and he does run through, so that is going to be a failure. Pulled out a bit, and he is injured. That is not a good sight to see. It looks like he's gone down in considerable pain. Felt something, perhaps was part of what went wrong on the previous attempt, but he has definitely felt something amiss there, and he'll be receiving treatment. Savannah. You never want to see any athlete go down injured, but especially a young athlete. He's only 20 years old. Hopefully it's just a bit of cramp. Looks like the official is stretching it out there, so maybe something just seized up. Let's hope it just is just a bit of cramp and not a tear. Very talented athlete, jumped 5:50 outdoors last year. Also does multi-events. And he looks to be none the worse for that, thankfully. Perhaps just a bit of cramp. But back to the runway. And it is a second attempt for Hade El Houzi, the 19-year-old athlete. Coached by Christophe Laurent. Introduced to the event by her mother many years ago, who also did a bit of vaulting. Ooh, she had the height, but perhaps not quite the right placement with that. And she just looks over to her coach or whoever is giving her feedback there in the stands and says, what do I have to change for attempt number 3? But she will thankfully have a third attempt to set things right and see if she can get over that height. Back on track, Song Haoyang of China. Second attempt at 5:18. He certainly had the height last time, and you can see he definitely had it that time. Soars clear, as you would expect from a man who jumped 5:71 a couple of years ago outdoors. He's jumped 5:60 indoors, and he'd no trouble clearing 5:21 last week. So look at that. That must be 30 or more centimeters he had to spare there as he cleared that. But now for Italy's Maria Roberta Gerca, things are starting to get a little nervous. Second attempt here at 4:06. She will not want to leave this to a third attempt. She again veers out to the right, but much more controlled this time. Much more measured. And didn't even touch that bar as she soared over 4:06. The first of the women's athletes to clear 4:06. But as I mentioned, a lot of the big names will not be attempting this height. They'll be keeping their powder dry for later. So the women are marching ahead with no men to jump just yet. And Spain's Andrea San Jose is on the runway for her second attempt at 4:06. 4:16 she cleared last week. This should be within her grasp. She hits it a very hard rattle. It very nearly stayed on, but not quite. Not quite. It'd be interesting to see that angle from the side on the replay, because it did look like she had the height there. Just came down on the bar. Perhaps needed to get a little bit closer to it. But as I mentioned, 4:16 last week. She is a 4:40 jumper. and beyond 4:42, her best indoors, dating back a few years. Cleared that in Barcelona, but Andrea San Jose will have one more attempt to get over 4:06. And on the runway, it's another French teenager, Gabin Mate. His first attempt at 5:33, so things starting to get serious. But as I mentioned, 5:51 last week on the Perche Tour, 5:33, well within his compass. Very tall athlete. He soars. Well, he does go over the bar, but I think it was his upper body perhaps just brushed it as he was coming back down the other side. Mate certainly had the height, except not quite in the right position. He was 10th at the World Under-20 Championships in Lima last year. Also the French Under-20 champion last summer. Alban Dordan, the local athlete, competing for Bordeaux, the 26-year-old, her second attempt at 4:06. Can she get it? Yes, she can. Doesn't even touch that bar as she goes over, celebrating before she hits the mat. And the light starts flashing for the Stade Bordelais Athlétisme athlete of the host club for this evening's event. And there is her coach standing trackside, Daniel Dosevi, involved in the organisation, but also, of course, in the coaching this evening. He was an accomplished vaulter himself over the last 10-12 years or so. Currently is focused solely on coaching. But it is a first attempt at 5:33 for the Spaniard. And he goes clear. Bravo, bravo. That was comfortable. Juan Luis Bravo, the 21-year-old. First man to go clear at 5:33. Jumped to 5:36 last week on the Perche Tour. So, Sonia Malevisi steps up for her second attempt at 4:06 for the 30-year-old. Grew up with a background in gymnastics, like so many other vaulters. Comes down the runway and she makes the necessary corrections and goes clear. A look of relief on her face there, I suppose, more than joy. The Fiamme Gialle athlete. Olympian back in 2016 was Malevisi. She was in the European Championships on home turf in Rome last year, finished 13th over there. Coached by Alexandre Navas-Pais. Look at that, you can see the experience in the technique there, just twisting her body to find a way over that bar when it was going to be a close call. So, back on the runway, first attempt at 5:33 for Owen Hurd. Fantastic speed on the runway, just gets a little bit too close to the bar, looked to knock it off with his feet on the way up. The 23-year-old Loughborough University student, a native of Surrey. But he'll have another chance, will Owen Hurd. This is his first competition in 2025, and no matter how well you've trained, no matter how much times, and you can see him there watching on the tablet, just being shown what exactly went wrong. And he's a pretty experienced athlete, even though he is just 23, so I'm sure he'll be able to see and not even need to be told what he needs to adjust. But here is Hada El Houzi, the French teenager, 19 years old. This is her third and final attempt. Big pressure moment for the youngster. And she nails it. Rises to the occasion, El Houzi. 4:06. She did jump 4:16 last week, a personal best. But more pressure on here. Lots of fans in the stands. You can see there, that is a pressure situation for a 19-year-old with the whole arena watching her, but she was well over that. And I dare say had plenty of room to spare. So we'll see what the progression of heights goes to next. And can El Houzi net another lifetime best for herself? But back to the men's competition. This is Chen Yang Li, his first attempt at 5:33. He was 5th at the Perche Tour event in Super de Voyoli last week. 5:51 he jumped there, an indoor PB. Shouldn't have a problem with 5:33. Doesn't have a problem with 5:33. Nice and easy for Chen Yang Li. Off to a flying start. And he soared over that. It was his shins and his feet were the closest to getting to that bar, but once they were clear, the rest of him was comfortably clear. So back to the women's competition. And Andrea San Jose, her third and final attempt. She jumped 4:16 last week, 4:06 here. It's a pressure jump to stay in this competition. Can she get it? She can't. Once again, just brushes it as she tried to clear it. It was very close to a clearance. The bar had a good think about staying on and then just decided didn't fancy it. So, swift end to the evening for Andrea San Jose. But it's still very early in the year. Lots of rust still being shaken off by so many of these vaulters. And there'll be lots more competitions on the Perche Tour and elsewhere for San Jose in the weeks to come. So, Tristan Desprez of France, the 22-year-old, first attempt at 5:33. Easy. Very easy for Desprez. 5:62, his best outdoors. He's cleared 5:57 indoors. And he did clear 5:51 last week on the Perche Tour. And he is keeping the good times rolling in Bordeaux. And then next up, Valentin Lavillenie, the 33-year-old. As I mentioned, big medal of his career was the European Indoor Championships, a silver medal back in 2021. 5:33 shouldn't be too much of an issue for him. He did clear 5:36 last week on the Perche Tour. So this won't be too easy, not in the middle of January. Everyone, and you can see there, yeah, just something not quite right on that run up or that elevation, and he knew as soon as that pole was planted something was amiss, perhaps physically, perhaps technically. He's just gone over discussing with his coach, and of course so many of these pole vaulters will have made tweaks, technical changes, perhaps the amount of steps on the run up, perhaps their body positioning at certain parts of the jump, and it's all a bit of a teething process, and everyone, no matter your event, is still in the middle of that process when it comes to the third week of January. The Villani will be looking back at that video and he'll have another chance at 5:33. So 4:16, as I mentioned, for Hade El Housi. This was the personal best she jumped just last week. Can she equal it in Bordeaux? Close, but not quite close enough. A very exciting talent for French athletics. Cleared 4:10 last summer outdoors. That earned her a spot at the World Under-20 Championships, where she finished 8th. Back to the men's competition. And Simone Bertelli of Fiammeggiale is on the runway. 20 years old, a real rising star of Italian athletics. 5:33 his first attempt, and he just runs through. Italian under-20 record he set back in 2023 of 5:51. And he was the Italian indoor champ at senior level last year while still a teenager. So a real talent is Bertelli, but we'll be seeing him to much better effect, I'm sure, in the jumps that follow. So, first attempt at 4:16 for Berenice Petit, the French athlete. There'll be a big cheer if she gets this. It was a nervous cheer for a moment, but it is a big cheer. She points up at that bar and says, thank you for staying on board. 4:16, first time clearance for Berenice Petit. 4:33 is her indoor best. You can see she just about had the height there. Gave it a good rattle with her torso on the way down. And it bounced, but it stayed in place. She is up and over 4:16. A great start to the competition for the French woman. So Gabine Mathé of France, second attempt at 5:33. No mistake that time. Competed at the World Under-20 Championships last year for France. Finished 10th out there in Lima. And he was the French Under-20 Indoor Champion last year. Has a best indoors of 5:51, which he set just last week. So no surprise to see him soaring clear there. But it is a first attempt at 4:16 for Elise Roussis, the French 21-year-old. Good speed on the runway, not quite there. Something slightly amiss. She jumped 4:31 last week on the Perche Tour. So a disappointing start for her here this evening, but 2 more attempts to come for Roussis. Owen Hurd back on the runway for his second attempt at 5:33. No mistakes this time. Comfortable. Applauds the crowd, applauds himself. And it's well deserved for the 23-year-old Loughborough student. Soars clear. He is a 5:60 vaulter outdoors at his best last summer. 5:33 shouldn't be too big of an issue for him. And indeed it is not. Back on the runway from Italy, Maria Roberta Gurka, 4:16, her first attempt at 4:16, and that is no issue for Gurka. Comfortable clearance, competes for the Aeronautica Militaire. Of course, so many Italian athletes have careers either in the civil service, the military and the police. She is one of them. The aeronautical military, and she has flown over 4:16. 4:40, of course, is her best indoors, which she jumped last year in Parma. But back on the runway, and Valentin Lavillenie might be feeling a little bit of pressure at this point. 5:33, a height that for so long would have been a formality for him. But he will not want to leave this to a third attempt. He'll want to be in the mix here this evening. He's one of the star names, one of the most accomplished athletes. Great speed on the runway from the Villani. Can he get over 5:33? He cannot. And it wasn't even close. There just does seem to be. We could see him discussing with his coach after that first attempt that something was clearly amiss, and he was looking at that tablet, studying his technique, and I'm sure he's gone straight back there to have a sit down with his coach and figure out just what is going wrong. But as I mentioned, this is the time of year where so many athletes are making tweaks and getting used to new approaches, new techniques. Back on the runway, and a big cheer goes up for Alban Dordan, the local athlete, a 26-year-old athlete representing Stade Bordelais Athlétisme. And the Bordeaux athlete is on the runway, generating good speed with those long strides. Can she get over 4:16 at the first attempt? It's a failure. She did get over 4:16 last week in Super de Voyalie, but no such joy so far this evening, but she will have another chance. Simone Bertelli, the 20-year-old athlete from Italy. 5:55 he cleared indoors last year. Can he get over 5:33 here at the second attempt? He was close. Closer than in his first attempt for sure, but not quite there for Bertelli this evening. But he'll have one more go at 5:33, or else he will be exiting this competition, the Fiamme Gialle athlete. So Pascal Stücklen is very much enjoying the atmosphere in Bordeaux this evening. Getting into the rhythm with those tunes that are blasting out. Can she go over her opening effort? 4:16 shouldn't be an issue for an athlete of her caliber, and it is not. Stücklen, highly impressive there. The Basel athlete, 27 years old. As I mentioned, her indoor personal best was cleared at a Diamond League, and if that sounds a little strange, it's because it was at the Zurich Diamond League last August. 4:52 she jumped, but she has jumped 4:60 last year to win silver at the Swiss Championships, and certainly no issues for her there. But the pressure is turned up high for Valentin Lavillenie. Third and final attempt at 5:33. Bar will be going up to 5:48 after this. Lavillenie will be very keen to get over this. He did jump 5:36 last week on the Perche Tour. He knows he has this within his wheelhouse. He just has to get it right on that runway, and he does. He does. Lavillenie, cometh the hour, cometh the man. Lots of pressure on him. It would have been, frankly, an embarrassing failure for him, an athlete of his caliber, not to clear 5:33, but he has. And that is you can see him there, his coach laughs. And plenty of room to spare there. 5:48 will be another kettle of fish. That is getting much higher up there, but 5:33 Lavillenie soars over. Great stuff from him. So Hade El Housi, her second attempt at 4:16. This is a height she cleared last week. It was a lifetime best. Can she repeat the magic at sea level? She can! El Housi soars clear, and those are the flashing lights once again to greet her achievement. The 19-year-old French athlete, that will be one of the biggest buzzes she's experienced in her career in front of the French crowd. Competes for the club up in Paris, Joinville. She is a student up there, and that was a very, very impressive clearance from her. And from here, she's free rolling. Anything beyond this will be a bonus. She equals her lifetime best on the Perche Tour. The next height, by the way, in the women's competition will be 4:26. So things will be getting a lot more difficult then. The field will be thinning. But will the men's field be thinning here? And it will be a surprise exit, if so, from Simone Bertelli, the 20-year-old who has cleared 5:63 outdoors. He needs 5:33. And he gets it. Comfortably goes clear. Bertelli probably asking himself there what exactly went wrong in attempts 1 and 2. No such errors on the third attempt. Simone Bertelli, the rising star of Italian pole vaulting, soars clear. Plenty of room to spare there as well. The European Under-20 champion was Bertelli back in 2023. So it is Elise Roussis on the runway for her second attempt at 4:16, and she gets it. Big cheer from the French crowd, relief on her face. Roussis goes clear. She did jump 4:31 last week, so she would have been extremely disappointed if she had 3 failures at 4:16, but no such fears. She's over 4:16. The next bar she will face will be 4:26. Stays in the competition. It'll be Alban Dordan next. And the sounds of Green Day blast out around the arena. The crowd rises to Alban Dordan, a home favourite from the local host club. Can she get over 4:16 at the second attempt? She did it last week. Can she do it again? Yes, she can. Dordan sails clear. Has a little sit down, a celebratory sit down for a moment, and then goes and grabs her pole. Back to work. The bar is about to go up to 4:26, and Dordan equals the 4:16 season's best she cleared last week on the first step, the first leg of the Perche Tour. And it's another French athlete, Gabine Maté, on the runway. And the first attempt here with the bar now at 5:48. This would be big. His lifetime best is 5:51. Oh, he's just got it. Maté just. By the thickness of his vest, I think he got over that 5:48 bar. But I did mention 5:51, his personal best. That was set just last week, 8 days ago. A brilliant clearance. As you can see there, it was just his chest. But he had the height. He delivered. Technically excellent over that. Gabine Maté, a rising star of French vaulting, just 19 years old and already clearing bars beyond 550 in his career. Great start to 2025 for the French teenager. And from a young French athlete to a young Spanish athlete, this is 21-year-old Juan Luis Bravo, representing the Pamplona Athletic Club. First attempt at 5:48. He has cleared 5:55 indoors. This is a tough ask. He's not quite up to it on this attempt, but he will have two more attempts, will the French athlete. He cleared 5:33 just last week. A real name to watch. He competed at the World Under-20 Championships a couple of years ago for Spain. Already gathering international experience. Didn't quite have the height that time. Just came down on the bar. That was never going to stay on. We're racing through this competition, and the bars are starting to get serious. 4:26 now, the bar for the women. 5:48 for men. So it is a first attempt at 4:26 for Hade El Houzi. This would be huge. This will be a personal best by 10 centimeters for the 19-year-old French athlete. It's a tough ask. How close can she get? Ooh. And you can see when athletes do step up to these bars that perhaps just a little beyond them or beyond what they've jumped before, they do tend to have to take some chances, push the limits of the technique. And you could see there in terms of her technique as she was on the rise, not exactly how you'd want your legs to be going up over a bar, split apart. Back to the men's competition, and Owen Hurd, the Loughborough student, is back on the runway for his first attempt at 5:48. 5:51 is his indoor PB, and he aborts mission pretty much as soon as that pole had planted, but looks to be none the worse for wear. Just knew something was technically amiss. And for an athlete who has jumped 5:60 outdoors and 5:51 indoors, 5:48, especially this early in the season, is never going to be too easy. So things really do have to be right. Berenice Petit of France next up for her first attempt at 4:26. 4:33 is her personal best indoors. It's a tough ask. She doesn't get it. You can see there, just veered off to the left a little bit, did the 26-year-old French woman. World University Games silver medalist she was a couple of years ago. Set a personal best there in Chengdu. 4:34. She's been over 4:30 already this year. So you would imagine that 4:26 is certainly very doable this evening. Back to the men's competition. Tristan Desprez, 22-year-old from France. First attempt at 5:48. Brilliant. Clean, crisp. Didn't even think about touching that bar as he went over it. And it looks to be plenty more height there for the French vaulter who turned 22 just a few days ago. And it's looking like a good birthday week for him. You can see good speed on the runway. He's a 10.7 100-meter man as well. And he soared over that bar with room to spare. 5:48. No issues there for this press. Back to the women's competition. And Elise Roussis. First attempt at 4:26. No. She will have 2 more attempts to come. Student in physiotherapy. She won a silver medalist at the World Under-20 Championships back in 2021. Finished just off the podium in 4th then a year later at the World Under-20s. So a big, big talent. She has been over 4:40 outdoors. That was last summer. And cleared 4:31 last week. So no doubt the height is there if she gets it right. Back to the men's competition and a first attempt at 5:48 for Song Haoyang. Not quite. You can see even on the way up there, just didn't quite generate the power to carry him up and over such heights. He has done it before. He's a 5:71 vaulter at his best, is Haoyang. But just getting going in 2025. He's jumped 5:21 so far before coming here. And it is Girka of Italy, Maria Roberta Girka, 4:26, her first attempt. She did clear 4:30 last week. This is within her compass if she gets it right. And she doesn't on that first of 3 possible attempts at 4:26. Used to represent Romania, did Girka, and then got her Italian citizenship and changed allegiance in 2016. She's 24 now. Just going over there to have a chat with her coaches about what exactly she needs to adjust for the next attempt. But never really looked like getting over that bar. You could see there just again veering far to the right. So, one of the big names of this competition, Valentin Lavillenie, first attempt at 5:48. You can see fantastic speed on the runway there, but can he generate that into vertical height? Not sufficiently anyway. 5:48 doesn't quite get over it, and I think he may have just broken his necklace there on landing. Looks to be gathering that, but yeah, just not quite there. Center of gravity just a bit before the bar. Lavillenie will have to make the necessary adjustments and see if he can manage to get over 5:48. 5:48 for anyone probably not named Nanda Duplantis is certainly not a formality at this time of year. Alban Dordan, the French 26-year-old of the host club in Bordeaux, first attempt at 4:26. And didn't quite run through there, so she will be able to back up and go again. Doesn't get the red flag. But as you can see there, the clock counting down, 20 seconds to go. It's always a nervous moment. And it takes an athlete of immense composure and cool to keep your focus in a situation like this. Probably only about 10 seconds or so to go now before she has to take her attempt, does Dordan. But whether it's a success or failure, I'm sure she'll learn something from it. First attempt at 4:26 for the athlete from the home club, and no. You can see perhaps it was just maybe even using that attempt as for a bit of information about her run-up, because you could see as soon as she got to the mat and was about to plant that pole, I think the decision was already made that she wasn't going to attempt 4:26 in that situation, and she didn't. So a man we've talked about quite a bit already, Simone Bertelli, is next on the runway. That is Daniel Dosevi, the coach of Alban Dordan. And indeed Marie-Julie Bonin. Dosevi was a European Under-23 championship all of 20 years ago, and he's a 5'75" vaulter. But these days he's coaching some of France's best. But here is Bertelli. First attempt at 5:48. Strides brilliantly down the runway there, but not quite there for him this evening on his first of 3 possible attempts at 5:48. Cleared an Italian under-20 record back in 2023 of 5:51. His best was set in September last year outdoors, 5:63. That's a height he's certainly capable of. And his clubmate in the familiar yellow strip of Fiamme Gialle, Sonia Malavisi. First attempt for her at 4:26, having passed at 4:16. Ooh, it was close. It was very close for Malavisi. But not quite there on the first attempt. 2 more chances to come for Sonia Malavisi, the 30-year-old. One of the senior stateswomen at this stage of Italian athletics. As I mentioned, 12 years ago she was a European Under-20 medalist. She has 3 national outdoor titles, 2 national indoor titles over the years. It was very close. I think 80% of her body was over it. It was just the upper part, the shoulders, just brushed that off. But here is a real rising star of French athletics, Baptiste Thierry. First attempt at 5:48. No issues, no fuss, no sweat for Thierry, the 23-year-old. Soars clear. He is a name we'll be hearing a lot more of in the years to come. 5:75 he jumped at the European Championships last year in Rome. He also has been over 5:75 indoors, and look at that majestic technique there, just so smooth over that bar and a beautiful arc. We'll talk a lot more about Thierry as this competition goes on, I've no doubt, because he'll be featuring heavily towards the business end. But back to the women's competition, and Pascale Stücklen, the Swiss 27-year-old, first attempt at 4:26. And I think, again, the decision was made as soon as that pole was planted that she wasn't going up in the air. Something just not quite right, I'm sure, on the run-up. Maybe it was the speed, maybe it was the body positioning, but something not quite right. Stücklen pulls the plug on her first attempt, but 2 more to come at 4:26 for the Basel athlete. She was an Olympian last year in Paris, went out in qualification there. She was also a finalist at the European Championships, finished 12th there. And she's been over 4:26 already this year, so certainly capable of that height. But back to the men's competition, and Juan Luis Bravo, his second attempt at 5:48. It's a big ask, but he's been over this height before, and he gets it. Well done to Juan Luis Bravo. Brilliant clearance. That is a big season's best. He obviously hadn't competed much so far this year, but had jumped 5:36 last week on the Perche Tour, and he adds a nice 12 centimeters to that and puts him firmly into contention, the young Spanish 21-year-old. Pole vault fans will know all about this woman, Roberta Bruni. Bruni is the 6-time Italian champion outdoors, 5-time Italian champion indoors. Has a best outdoors of 473, of course. Her indoor best is 465. All of 13 years ago, she was a world under-20 bronze medalist. And can she get off to a flying start here? Roberta Bruni, 4:26, first attempt, clears it with lots to spare. The lights go flashing. Comfortable clearance for Bruni. Changed coaches last year. Moved to Pamplona in Spain to train with Alexandre Navas. And she did make the Olympic final in Paris. Finished 14th there. and finished 7th in the European final in Rome and 10th at the World Indoor Final in Glasgow. But back to the men's competition. Second attempt for Owen Hurd. Close to that. But not quite close enough. The bar flies up in the air and back down to the mat. Owen Hurd will have one final attempt at 5:48. The Loughborough student. A lot of athletes will have come to watch this lady here this evening. The 23-year-old rising star of French pole vaulting, Marie-Julie Bonin. Her first attempt is a comfortable clearance. The Stade Bordelais Athlétisme athlete. 4:26, no issues there. And she has a quick chat with her coach as the man on MC and puts the microphone in. Perhaps everyone in the stands is getting to hear that technical feedback. But it's no harm, it's always interesting, much like in tennis. It's fascinating when it's an event like the Davis Cup or events like that where you get to listen in on what exactly the coach is saying to some of the players. Give a fascinating level of insight for fans. But here is Song, second attempt at 5:48. It's close, but it's unsuccessful for Song Haoyang. He will have one more attempt to go. 5:21 he cleared last week. Currently looking for 5:48. It's a height he's been over plenty of times in the past, but not yet this year. So it's already been a good night for Hade El Houzi. 4:16 equals her personal best, indoors or outdoors. That was set just last week, but can she add 10 centimetres to it? It is a big jump. But she is just 19 years old, and often athletes make a very steep progression at that age. Can El Houzi go clear here? 4:26. Not quite, and she smiles a little or winces a little there as she looks over at her coach. And I'm sure they'll be having a good discussion about what exactly she can change, if anything, to help her up and over 4:26 at the third and final attempt. But either way, she's acquitted herself brilliantly this evening. And the pressure is turned up high for Valentin Lavillenie. He's come 4th at the World Indoors. He's come 3rd at a European Indoors. He's finished 6th in a World Outdoor Final. He is a highly accomplished athlete. European Under-23 silver medal as well. All of 12 years ago now. His best this year is 5:36. That was just last week. But he is, of course, a 5:85 vaulter indoors. Are his best days behind him? Or will he bring his career to a glorious finish in the years ahead? Lavillenie here, he needs 5:48 at the second attempt. Doesn't get it, and it didn't really look like it was close. But he will have one more attempt to stay in this competition and join Desprez, Thierry and Mate, and along with Bravo, up and over 5:48. Berenice Petit, second attempt at 4:26. Not quite successful on this occasion, but it was close. It was close, and she will have one more go. That's 26-year-old French athlete. Simone Bertelli, the 20-year-old Italian, back on the runway for his second attempt at 5:48. The Fiamme Gialle athlete, European Under-20 champion 2 years ago, a real rising star of Italian pole vaulting. He needs 5:48 to stay in this competition. He will have one more attempt if he fails. And he will need that third attempt. Bertelli unsuccessful on this occasion. It's certainly a height he has within his compass. 5:63 he cleared outdoors last year. 5:55 indoors. But Bertelli will have to make the necessary adjustments for his third and final attempt, which will be upcoming. So, the French 21-year-old Elise Roussis, second attempt for her at 4:26. The former world under-20 silver medalists. She needs this. Doesn't quite get it, but she will have a third attempt to stay in this competition. Bar currently at 4:26. It will be going up next to 4:36. As we see just Bruni and just getting lost in the live results there. But Bruni is up and over 4:26. So third attempt, the pressure jump for Owen Hurd, the Loughborough student, on the runway. As you can see, brilliant speed generated there. Can he get this? It's so close. It's agonizingly close, but it's a failure ultimately for Owen Hurd. It's very early days in the season. No athlete's going to be going away in tears after a competition like this. Still lots more to come, but I'm sure he would have liked that. And looking at that, you'd have to say he probably had it just his left knee there as he was kind of arcing his body over that bar. Just brushed that. So Maria Roberta Gerca, second attempt at 4:26. The 24-year-old Italian representing Aeronautica Militare. Doesn't quite go over that. So she'll have one more chance. She did clear 4:30 just last week in Ancona. So Gerca, former Italian indoor champion back in 2017, will have one final attempt to get over 4:26 and join her compatriot Bruni. But back to the men's competition. And it is Song Haoyang, a 22-year-old rising star of Chinese vaulting. Cleared 5:71 back in 2023. It's been over 5:21, his season's best in just one competition this year. Needs 5:48 here. Third and final attempt, and he delivers. Haoyang delivers. Brilliant clearance from the young Chinese vaulter. Some great feedback there from the coaching team. You can see there, straight up and over with, there's at least 10 or 15 centimeters more there to spare for Haoyang. Back to the women's competition. And Alban Dordan, second attempt for her at 4:26. She's been over 4:16 tonight. She was over 4:16 just last week as well on the Perche Tour. World University Games silver medalist back in 2023. With our coach Daniel Dosevi watching alongside the runway. Can Dordan go clear here at the second attempt? No, she can't. Something just not quite right for Dordan. One more attempt to come for the French woman from the local club. It is quite an unusual setup there, just having the kind of eavesdropping for the benefit of the audience on that conversation between Alban Dordan and her coach, Danielle Dosevi. But sure, it all adds to the enjoyment of this event. So, Valentin Lavillenie, it's now or never for the Frenchman, in terms of this competition anyway. The 33-year-old looks down the runway, looks up at a bar that is 5 meters and 48 centimeters in the air. At his best, he's more than capable, but his only competition this year, he was over 5:36, needs 5:48 here, doesn't quite get it. The night ends for Valentin Lavillenie, but he's not too despondent about it. Gives an appreciative crowd a very appreciative round of applause and says thank you for your support. This is not his night, but it's very early days in this 2025 season for Valentin Lavillenie. Lots of these athletes, of course, will be looking towards the European Indoors in early March, World Indoors towards the end of March. Tough qualifying criteria for them. Just 12 athletes will make the World Indoors in the pole vault. 18 will make the European Indoors. But back to the women's competition, because Sonia Malavisi of Fiamme Gialle is about to take her second attempt at 4:26. Gets it! Brilliant from Malavisi. As I mentioned, her indoor personal best of 4:50. That dates all the way back to 2019. But she did go over an outdoor personal best of 4:52 last year at the European Championships. And over to her clubmate from Fiamme Gialle, Simone Bertelli, the 20-year-old rising star of Italian vaulting, rousing the crowd here for his third and final attempt at 5:48. Now this is a height it really does look like Bertelli has within his wheelhouse. European Under-20 champion back in 2023. Competed on the big stage in front of his home crowd at the European Championships in Rome last year. The Italian Under-20 record holder back in 2023 with a 5:51. 5:48 he needs here. It's so close. So close for Bertelli, but he doesn't quite get it. And he knew it was close. You can see by his reaction. But he thanks the crowd at the intimate venue at the Palais des Sports in Bordeaux. But it's not quite to be for Bertelli this evening. 5:33 he bows out of the competition. So it is Pascal Stücklin. And we can see Stücklin is very much rousing herself and rousing the crowd there, very much enjoying the atmosphere and the music. Her second attempt at 4:26. It's a height she's more than capable of. A height she jumped just last week. But it's nervous moments for Stücklin. Just gives a little shake of the head. She's got that height within her if she nails her technique, but she'll have just one final attempt to do it at 4:26. European finalist was Stücklin last year in Rome, finished 12th there, and also fulfilled a long-held dream by competing at the Paris Olympics. She's a medical student, and 4 or 5 years ago now, she moved to join the group, train alongside Nicole Buchler, the Swiss record holder. In pole vaulting since the age of 10, so most of her life. The 27-year-old Stücklin has a best of 4:60, which she jumped to win silver at the Swiss Championships last year. But the only bar that matters right now for Stücklin is 4:26, and she'll have one more try at it. And that is the case for a number of other athletes, including Berenice Petit, Maria Roberta Gerke, and Elise Roussis. But back to the men's competition, because the bar is moving on up to 5:56, and it's going to be the local athlete, the 19-year-old Frenchman Gabin Maté, who's going to be first up to try it. No, it's ladies first. and it is going to be Hade El Housi, her third and final attempt at 4:26. As I mentioned, this would be a personal best by 10 centimeters. It is a big ask for the 19-year-old French vaulter. But who knows, she's already equaled her lifetime best this evening. Can she soar even higher? No, not quite. Good attempt, not quite there. But it's been a promising start to the year. She'd never been over 4:10 before the calendar turned to 2025, and she's been over 4:16 on consecutive weekends, has El Housi, the 19-year-old French vaulter. Lots more to come from her in 2025, but her competition for this evening has come to an end. The familiar French chant rings out there. Anyone who's ever been to Roland Garros or watched a bit of the French Open from Roland Garros will be very familiar with it. This is Gabin Maté of France, 19-year-old French under-20 indoor champion last year. Finished 10th at the World Under-20 Championships, a real rising star. 5:51 is his lifetime best. This will be a big jump in that, but can he get it? He can't. Not on this attempt, but two more to come for Maté. So back to the women's competition, and Berenice Petit, her third and final attempt. We'll have a number of athletes here. 4 athletes will make their third attempts at 4:26. Can any of them get over? Petit has been over 4:34 at her best. 4:33 indoors, lifetime best. And, oh, it's so close. It is so close for Petit. And the frustration is very much visible for the 26-year-old French athlete. Not to be on this evening, has to make do with a best of 4:16. Her competition comes to a close, and in front of a crowd like this, she'll have been very keen to have made an impression. As you can see, she had the height, and I think that's where the frustration really comes from. She certainly, her centre of gravity was way over that bar, but just came down a little bit too close on top of it. Enough to brush it off. And a sense of great frustration there for Petit. Back to the men's competition. And the man who made us say bravo a few times already, we will be saying it again. Juan Luis Bravo of Spain, the 21-year-old vaulter, 5:56, first attempt. Doesn't get it. I think he tried to use his hand to keep that bar on, but a little bit too much pressure. Even that wasn't going to cut it. But Bravo, he's been over 5:55 at his best, so this is possible for him. Get a look at that there and see how he kind of just, grabbed a hold of that bar as he knew his legs had hit it off, and he just tried to reach out and give it a push to keep it on, but unsuccessfully. So, Elise Roussis, third and final attempt at 4:26. She has been over 4:35 at her best indoors. This is possible. She needs this. She doesn't get it. The 21-year-old Elise Roussis, her competition comes to an end. The former World Under-20 silver medalist, but a very bright future ahead for her. The physio student. She's been over 4:31 already this year, just last week on the Perche Tour. But no success this evening for Roussis. Just got too close to that bar. Knocked it off with her legs on the way up. No joy for Roussis this evening. Back to the men's competition. This is Chen Yang Li, his first attempt at 5:56. He did clear an indoor personal best last week of 5:51 in Super de Voyoli. 5:56 will be a jump for him. He has been over 5:60 outdoors, but can he get this? He can! An indoor lifetime best for Chen Yang Li. A brilliant clearance by the 21-year-old Chinese vaulter. Vaults himself right to the head of the standings. Chen Yang Li. Brilliant clearance. Didn't really look to touch that bar at all, if I'm not mistaken, and he didn't. And it looked to be another at least 8 or 10 centimeters there for Li. The bar for him will next be going up to 5:64, so it'll be going up in 8 centimeter increment after this. But it is going to be the third and final attempt first for Maria Roberta Gerke at 4:26. She did clear 4:30, as I mentioned, in Ancona just 6 days ago, last Sunday. Former Italian indoor champion. Her indoor personal best last year of 4:40. She can do this at her best, but she's not quite at her best this evening. Gerke's competition comes to a close. It was a good attempt, a brave attempt. Ultimately not there just yet. Gives the crowd a round of applause, offers her thanks. But she'll live to fight another day, will Gerke. You can see there, even on the way up, I think she knew, just didn't quite have the alignment she wanted. Tristan Desprez, first attempt at 5:56. This will be a big clearance if he can get it. But he cannot, the 22-year-old who celebrated his birthday this week. Brilliant clearance at 5:48. But it's going to be a whole lot trickier now that the bar is up to 5:56. Based in Nantes. He was the French under-23 champion and indeed the Mediterranean under-23 champion last year, was Desprez. 5:51 he cleared just last week. It's a great slow-mo replay there to just see his attempt, but didn't quite appear to have the height. A third and final attempt for Alban Dordan, the athlete from the host club in Bordeaux. She needs this. Can she get it? No. And again, that decision was made, I think, long before she was about to take off, that was not going to be a successful one. So disappointment this evening for Dordan. But as we mentioned, it is very early days in this 2025 indoor season. Many of these athletes opening their competition this week, or many of them also only in their second, at most probably third competition of the indoor season. So lots of rust being blown off at the Starperche Bordeaux. Back to the men's competition. No, looks like it's once again going to be ladies first. And it is Pascale Stucklin, her third and final attempt at 4:26. Oh, it was close. It was very close, but Stucklin couldn't quite get it this evening. She did get over 4:26 just last week, but it wasn't quite there this evening. Just 3 athletes have gone clear at 4:26. They are Marie-Julie Bonin and the 2 Italians, Sonia Malavisi and Roberta Bruni. So, back to the men's competition. And a first attempt at 5:56 for Song Haoyang, the 22-year-old Chinese vaulter. Good speed on the runway. Up he goes, cleanly over 5:56 at the first time of asking. Brilliant clearance from the young Chinese vaulter, just 22 years old. He was an Asian indoor silver medalist last year. cleared 5:21 last week on the Perche Tour, but he's already up and over 5:56 at the first time of asking. Brilliant there, just contorted his body, and you can see that bar wasn't even brushed as he went clear at 5:56. Excellent, excellent clearance. So it looks like it's going to be Gabin Maté back on the runway. The 19-year-old Frenchman's second attempt for him at 5:56. He did clear 5:51 just last week. It's a step up. He's very close. That was even closer than his first attempt for Maté. It wasn't quite there. But he will know he is on the cusp of a lifetime best this evening. 5:30 is his best outdoors. 5:51 indoors. That was just last week. Can he get up and over 5:56? You can see how close it was. He's just almost kneeling down over that bar there, trying to contort his body around it. Didn't quite have the height ultimately, but it was very close. And he will have one more attempt. But back on the runway, Sonia Malavisi of Italy. First attempt for her at 4:36. Five-time national champion of Italy. 3 outdoors, 2 indoors. She needs 4:36 here. Doesn't get it. And you could see by where she landed there, she was not close to getting that. Just the center of gravity in front of the bar. But Malavisi will have 2 more attempts for the Fiamma Gialla athlete. Back to the men's competition. And Juan Luis Bravo, the 21-year-old athlete, best of 5:55. Can he get this? It's a big ask for him at 5:56. A lifetime best try for Bravo. Doesn't quite come off for him. You can see, not too despondent about it. He knows these are big, big bars for a man of 21 years of age. Not a dissimilar look to Mondo Duplantis, you'd have to say. Could easily be his younger brother. But one more attempt remaining for Juan Luis Bravo. One of the favourites for the women's event, and one of the most accomplished athletes in Bordeaux this evening, Roberta Bruni, the 30-year-old Italian, lining up this bar. She was one and done at 4:26, moving on up, keeping her powder dry, saving her energy for 4:36, which is where things will be starting to get a little bit more serious for an athlete of her caliber. So Bruni riles the crowd, music is going, the fans are clapping along. Can Bruni get over 4:36 at the first time of asking? No, not quite. Looks like she had the height, but perhaps not quite the execution on this occasion. But 2 more attempts to come. She is qualified on the quota for the World Indoor and European Indoor Championships. Yeah, you could see the height was there, but perhaps just a little bit in front of the bar there. Just came down a bit on top of it. But at the age of 30, she's won enough and done enough to be experienced enough to know exactly what technical adjustments she will have to make to correct that, and she will have 2 more attempts to get it right. So you can hear the noise rise in the arena, and that's because Gabin Maté is on the runway for his 3rd and final attempt at 5:56. Would be a lifetime best for the young Frenchman, the 19-year-old. It's close, but not close enough. The bar bent, it folded down and then bounced back up in the air. Gabin Maté, not quite there for him on this occasion. But it's been a very good start to the season, as I mentioned, with that lifetime best of 5:51 recently. wasn't all that far away, as you can see. Yeah, just didn't quite have the height, but he's within a few centimetres of being able to clear a 5:56 bar like that. Back to the women's competition. And Sonia Malavisi of Fiammeggiale. The Italian just puts down the pole there for a moment, perhaps just composing herself, waiting for that clock to start. I know it is going to be Bravo in the men's competition who is up next. Quick turnaround for him, but he will now take his third and final attempt. The 21-year-old Spaniard, 5:56. It will be a lifetime best for him. No. Good to see him land safely. Always makes you a bit nervous when you see an athlete hanging up on the pole like that for a bit as they try to maneuver themselves to the ground, but it's a good evening for Bravo. 5:48, an impressive clearance, and he's not that far away from those bars in the 5:50s. Lots more to come from him, but this is Sonia Malavisi, the 30-year-old Italian. As I mentioned, a background in gymnastics like so many other pole vaulters. Her second attempt upcoming at 4:36. 2016 Olympian was Malavisi. 13th at the European Championships last year. All that matters now is that bar, 4:36, doesn't come off for her. So one attempt remaining for Sonia Malavisi. Doesn't look too pleased about that jump, but I'm sure she'll be having a discussion with her coach, seeing what she can change to get things right. It was close. It was certainly close. Not quite close enough. Brilliant atmosphere in the arena at the Palais des Sports in Bordeaux. The event organised by Stade Bordelais Athlétisme, the local club. They certainly love their pole vaulting in France, and it shows in the athletes that they produce. Year after year after year, there was always French pole vaulters in that top 10, top 20 in the world. See why it's so revered. The crowd get a few t-shirts for themselves. It's certainly a good value ticket as well, as only €10 entrance to the stadium for adults, €7 for students, and under 10s welcome in free. Just great to see Stade Bordelais Athlétisme encouraging not just participation but also athletics spectating amongst the local crowd. So the bar at 4:36. No one has been over this bar yet, but Roberta Bruni will be making a good go of it here. The 30-year-old Italian. She's been over bars of this height countless times in her career, but this is early in the season. Can she get over 4:36? She can. The lights start flashing immediately as she just about keeps her balance there on the mat. Up and over 4:36, the first athlete to do so. Bruni vaults into the lead. She was an Olympic finalist in Paris, was Bruni. As I mentioned, 7th at the European Championships last year, 10th at the World Indoors. And as she is within the qualification cutoff for both the World and European Indoors, I've no doubt she will be looking towards Apeldoorn, looking towards Nanjing, and to potential big indoor championships this season. Back to the men's event, and it's Chen Yang Li of China, the 21-year-old. Brilliant clearance at 5:56. That was an indoor personal best for him. Can he get 5:64? This will be an outright personal best. Oh, it was close. He just came down on the bar there. I think again, Perhaps his center of gravity was just a little bit too far in front of the bar and he just seemed to come down on the bar. So third and final attempt for Sonia Malavisi at 4:36 to try to join her compatriot, her fellow Italian Roberta Bruni, at the head of the standings. This is tough. This is difficult. It's supposed to be difficult. Malavisi, 4:36, final attempt. No. Not quite there for her this evening. But it will be a 4:26 clearance. That has her in third place. And there will be some prize money coming her way for that. But Bruni stands alone at the top of the standings for now with that clearance at 4:36. So after a first-time failure at 5:56, Tristan Desprez, first attempt at 5:64. Ooh, that was close. Didn't quite have it though. So it's just the two Chinese vaulters so far, Li and Song, who've gone clear at 5:56. Can anyone join them? Desprez is a 5:56, but you can see that those hips were just not quite in the right position as he hits that high point. But again, a chance for him to make an adjustment, make the correction, and come out and try to go up and over 5:64. Of course, having one failure recorded at 5:56, he will only have a second attempt remaining at 5:64. So, first attempt from Song Haoyang at 5:64 runs through. Something not quite right on the run up there for Haoyang. He is a 5:71 vaulter at his best outdoors. 5:60 is his indoor best. Didn't fancy that. His coach just giving him some feedback, telling him what he needs to change. And he'll be back for another couple of tries. But back to the women's competition. And Roberta Bruni is back on the runway. Now we're back to the men's first. And Baptiste Thierry, his first attempt at 5:64. Oh, it was so close. So close for Thierry. But that bar just would not quite stay on. The Youth Olympic Games champion Thierry was back in 2018. He's developed into a fine athlete at senior level, as you can see. Certainly had the height just with his thighs, and agonizing how that bar just bounces there in place for a few seconds before falling off. But two more attempts to come for that Baptiste Thierry. First though, it's going to be Roberta Bruni, her first attempt at 4:46. She had just one competition so far this year in Zaragoza. She no-heighted there, so it's already been a much better evening for her this evening with that clearance of 4:36. member of the Carabinieri in Italy. And she's got it. 4:46 for Bruni on the first attempt. Brilliant, brilliant from the Italian. And she is delighted with that. As we see, Bonin is still in the competition with that 4:26 clearance. We'll be expecting her to return to action. But at the moment it is Bruni. Up and over, and that will take some beating. Brilliant from the Italian. And next up it will be the home star, Marie-Julie Bonin, trying to match Roberta Bruni. The leader in the men's competition, it is Chen Yang Li, the 21-year-old Chinese vaulter. This would be big. 5:56 already this evening. That's an indoor personal best. This would be an outright personal best for the 21-year-old Chinese vaulter. Oh, it was close. It was very, very close for Li. But not quite there. One more attempt to come for the Chinese vaulter. Cleared 5:51 last week on the Perche Tour. Looks to have the height for sure. Very, very close to going over that bar, but not quite there. But prepare for extra volume in the arena, because Marie-Julie Bonin, the 23-year-old, representing the host club, Stade Bordelais Athlétisme, is on the runway. Can she match Bruni? She will have stood there watching as Bruni sailed over 4:46. She's capable of this. She's a 4:70 jumper at her burst. And she's got it. Bonin has got it. Answers back to Bruni. Brilliant, brilliant from Bonin. So just the two out there alone at the head of the standings, Bonin and Bruni. And she goes back to have a quick chat with her coach. 2 jumps, 2 clearances. Been the perfect competition so far. She did clear 4:51 last week on the Perche Elite Tour. That was a brilliant, brilliant clearance. You can see her just using that bar there to propel herself up and over. Or using that pole, I should say. Brilliant clearance from the French vaulter. And from one French vaulter to another, it is the second attempt for Tristan Desprez. The birthday boy this week, he turned 22 just a few days ago. The French under-23 and Mediterranean under-23 champion last year. 5:57 is his best indoors. It would be a big, big ask to go over 5:64. He hasn't done it on this occasion. Still, third place so far anyway, and a 5:48 clearance is a very promising start to the year. He cleared 5:51 last week. So the fields are being whittled substantially at the moment. 2 women just left going head to head, Bonin and Bruni. Here is Bruni. Just checking the height progression. The bar now up to 4:66, given Bruni and Bonin have both gone clear the first attempt at 4:56. Sorry, at 4:46, yeah. So the bar going up to 4:56. Brilliant atmosphere in the arena. Pole vaulting as it should be done. The athletes have the stage, much as it was at the Paris Olympics when everyone stayed behind to see Mondo Duplantis work his magic in the Stade de France. Everyone got a real sampler of just how captivating the event can be. when it's done so well. And there's two competitions boiling into head-to-head matchups here. So first attempt at 4.56 for Roberta Bruni. She asked the crowd for support, and even though they're technically cheering against their home athlete, they offer it. The crowd started clapping along. Bruni at 4.56. Indoor personal best is 4.65. That was set just last year in France, and she produced more magic in Bordeaux. Oh, it's so close, but it does stay on. Just about. That is clutch vaulting from the Italian 30-year-old. Roberta Bruni straight back to the head of the standings. Marie-Julie Bonin stepped up and cleared 4.46 and swept to the lead. But Bruni answers right back. She did just brush it there with her torso as she went over, but it was never really going to fall. Not close to enough pressure to make that bar fall. And Bruni goes clear at 4.56 and heaps the pressure on her rival, Marie-Julie Bonin, the 23-year-old, who will be very keen to get a win on home turf. But this is Song Haoyang. Second attempt at 5.64 for the Chinese vaulter. Oh, it was close. Not far away at all for Haoyang. As you can see, just two men so far clear at 5.56. There's plenty of distance left to run in that men's competition. So next up, it will be Marie-Julie Bonin, the Stade Bordelais Athlétisme athlete. The local host club, 23-year-old, has been up and over 4.70 last year. And she gets 4.56 here. She doesn't on the first attempt. And that's going to make it difficult to earn victory. Because the bar after this, I'll just check the progression of what it will go up to. The bar will be going up, another 10 centimeters to 4.66 after this. So to beat Bruni, she will now have to clear 4.66. It was close. Yeah, it was just her feet, really. It's going to be another French vaulter up next. Baptiste Thierry. His second attempt at 5.64. Having passed at 5.56. He needs this. Challenge the two Chinese vaulters. He will go to the front if he can get it. It's a height he's cleared many times before, Baptiste Thierry, and it's a height he clears tonight. Well done, Baptiste Thierry. The 23-year-old soars clear, 5.64, and you can see jumps to the head of the standings. Ahead of Haoyang, ahead of Li. Baptiste Thierry, the 23-year-old Frenchman. Brilliant clearance. You can see just brushed it with his chest, but not near enough to dislodge that bar. Baptiste Thierry goes up and over and leads on home turf in France. Grew up in Martinique, did Thierry. He's a very accomplished all-round athlete, an 8,000 point decathlete as well. And he won 2 Carifta Games titles back in 2018 and 2019 for Martinique. But now, answer that, Chen-Yang Li. Third and final attempt at 5.64 for Chen-Yang Li. This is a big ask. 5.60 is his personal best. This will be a big personal best for Li if he can get it. And he does get it! Li soars clear, answers Thierry. Goes with him over 5.64. The bar will next move up to 5.70. And Baptiste Thierry and Chengyang Li may be going head-to-head for victory on the Perche Tour. Brilliant, brilliant clearance. A lifetime best for the 21-year-old Chinese vaulter. So it looks to be two head-to-heads. The beauty of the pole vault is that it so often boils down to not only your performance, but whether you can do something that upsets your rival and make a clearance at the perfect time to put them under immense pressure. And that, even though this is an early season meeting, of course, there's bigger targets on the horizon. Marie-Julie Bonin will want to earn victory in her home event hosted by her home club this evening. But Roberta Bruni has heaped the pressure on with her clearance. Can Bonin answer back? 4:56. She does! She goes clear. The lights flash, the crowd roar. Marie-Julie Bonin answers right back to Roberta Bruni. It's not enough to go into the lead. Of course, Bruni went over at her first attempt, Bonin at her second. So she will need the next height, 4:66, to earn victory. But that is nonetheless a brilliant, brilliant clearance. That is an indoor personal best for Marie-Julie Bonin. 4:53 was her previous best indoors. And it looked like there is more room to spare there on an upcoming jump for Marie-Julie Bonin. 4:70 is her best outdoors. She did that last summer in France. The French champion and the multiple times Italian champion going head-to-head for the women's title at the Starperche Bordeaux. A brilliant event with a brilliant atmosphere. So, Roberta Bruni may have thought that her evening's work might have been done. But her rival, the athlete we thought would be her rival, Marie-Julie Bonin, has answered back. And the bar will now go up to 4:66. Bruni's indoor personal best is 4:65, which was cleared last year, also in France, in Roubaix, last February. And as I mentioned, Bonin has already set an indoor lifetime best this evening, adding 3 centimeters to her best. But I mentioned the men's competition looks to be boiling down into a head-to-head. But this is the one man who could make it a 3-way clash at the next height. If Song can get over this, but he cannot. Song Haoyang bows out with a best of 5:56. That will be good enough for third. Didn't quite have 5:64 in him this evening. So it will be 2 men going head-to-head for the title. Chengyang Li of China and Baptiste Thierry of France. No prizes for guessing who the crowd will be behind, of course. One of the rising stars of French athletics was Baptiste Thierry. And it looks like it's going to be Bruni first up at 4:66 it's going to be. Yeah, going up in 10 centimeter increments, so 4:66 for Bruni. She has never cleared this height indoors, but she has outdoors. 4:73, the Italian record she set in Chiari back in September 2023. So it's brilliant, brilliant start to the outdoor season for Bruni. One of the more expressive athletes on the pole vault runway. You can see her just psyching herself up, looking up at that bar. This is difficult. 4:66 is difficult, especially in mid-January. But Bruni has been over a bar this high before. Can she do it? It will be a lifetime best indoors. Not on the first attempt. Claps her hands. Probably knows what she did wrong, walks away, and she will make the necessary adjustments. And she will face a little bit of a nervous wait now as she has to sit and watch as Marie-Julie Bonin attempts 4:66 to try and usurp her at the head of the standings. So 570 the bar is at for the men's competition. First attempt for Baptiste Pieri, who leads the way. He cleared 575, his lifetime best indoors last year. This will be a heck of a way to start 2025. Not quite there for him at the first attempt anyway. 570. But he still has the lead. And only one man now can depose him. That is China's Chen Yang Li. 21-year-old who set his personal best, indoors or outdoors, just a few moments ago. You see Thierry there, it's close. It was very close, but not quite there. Finished 9th in the European final, did Thierry last year, clearing 575, equaling his PB. Back to the women's competition, and Marie-Julie Bonin. 466 first attempt. She has been over 470 outdoors. As I mentioned, her best ever indoors is what she just jumped a few minutes ago, 456. Of course, not too much of a difference between indoor and outdoor conditions for vaulters. Can Bonin go clear at 466? She has! Bonin goes clear! It is a massive personal best indoors again for Bonin, but most importantly, it is a world lead on top of that. And it vaults her back to the head of the standings, ahead of Roberta Bruni. On home turf, the Stade Bordelais Athletisme athlete, her coach, well, he looks very placid there. Not too many celebrations from him, but you can see the ecstasy on her face, having cleared 466 so early in the season. That is a brilliant vault from the 23-year-old French woman. European under-20 silver medalist she was back in 2019. Reigning French outdoor champion at senior level now. Coached by Daniel Dosevi. And she is very much going in the right direction as 2025 gets up and running. Brilliant, brilliant clearance from Bonin. And that is going to be an exceptionally tough act to follow for Roberta Bruni. Just having failed that first attempt at 466, the next height would be 471. So that's what Bruni would need to clear to get back to the head of the standings in this competition. It's going to be extremely difficult, but it's still nonetheless been a great start for Bruni as she looks towards the indoor season that has plenty of opportunities in it. But back to the men's competition. Baptiste Pieri is already out front. He has the lead. This would just about confirm his victory if he could go up and over 570 here. It would be brilliant clearance. He was very close the first time. He was just about as close that time, but it's not quite there for the 23-year-old. But he'll have one goal left. Student in Paris at the Sciences College is Thierry, but as I mentioned, he grew up in Martinique. He was a European under-18 silver medalist all the way back in 2018. Really, really talented athlete, won a lot, and as I mentioned, those 2 Carifta Games titles, and an accomplished decathlete as well, who's been well over 8,000 points. But over the last years, he was kind of looking towards the Paris Olympics. He kept his focus on pole vault last year, and that appears to be how he has started 2025 as well. It looks to be his full focus now. So Roberta Bruni back on the runway. A tough ask. This will be an indoor personal best, and you know, even if she didn't go up over 471, and if she could get an indoor personal best this early in the season, the first competition in which she's registered a height this year, having no height at last week in Zaragoza, Roberta Bruni would walk away absolutely thrilled if she could get over an indoor PB right here, 466. 465, her best so far. That's an Italian record that she cleared in Roubaix last year. Can she move it 1 centimetre higher in Bordeaux? Not this time, but she'll have one more attempt, will Bruni, to respond to Bonin and to perhaps raise that Italian indoor record. A world lead, as you see there. Not too many, I suppose, get carried away about world leads on the 18th of January, but nonetheless, it's nice to have that beside your name. And Marie-Julie Bonin has that. Close there from Bruni, not too far away at all. Perhaps an athlete of her experience will be able to make a few adjustments and give 466 a good rattle on the third attempt. So for now, Marie-Julie Bonin can sit back, and I don't think she stopped smiling since she cleared 466. That was, if we put a line through her 456 clearance tonight, before tonight, that would have added 13 centimetres to her indoor personal best that she set last year. So a breakthrough night for Bonin on home turf in Bordeaux. And another Frenchman will be looking, another French athlete I should say, will be looking to draw huge inspiration from that on the parallel runway. Baptiste Thierry will soon be stepping up. Really interesting to see those adjustments in the markers. Here is Baptiste Thierry, his third and final attempt at 570. Comes screaming out of that pit into the runway. Up into the sky, but it's not quite there for him this evening. But he is the champion. He is the winner on home turf in France at the Starperche Bordeaux. Baptiste Thierry, with that clearance at 564, takes victory on countback, ahead of Chen Yang Li of China, 564. That was Daniel Dosevi, now coach, former athlete, European under-23 pole vault champ back in 2005. Cleared 575 during his career. Now coach, of course, to Marie-Julie Bonin. So just a couple of vaulters left. Chen Yang Li, of course, will have one further attempt to try to depose Baptiste Thierry in the men's competition. And one last attempt for Roberta Bruni to soar over an Italian indoor record of 466. She set the Italian indoor record at 465 in Roubaix last year, in February. 4:56. Brilliant start to her season. Can she get over 4:66? This would be huge from Bruni. Not this time. She has to settle for second on the evening. But you can tell when a smile breaks out on a pole vaulter's face immediately. They're very happy with their night's work, and she has very good cause to be. Shaking hands with the officials. Roberta Bruni. Brilliant start, having no heighted last week in Zaragoza. She moved herself from her beloved Italy over to Pamplona in Spain to prepare for the Olympics. I believe still training over there under the guidance of coach Alexandra Navas. And she has certainly started 2025 in very impressive fashion with that clearance. But you will notice that despite having the competition won, Marie-Julie Bonin is not taking those spikes off. Her work is not done. The bar is going to be moving on up from 4:66 up to 4:71. Bonin's best outdoors or indoors is 4:70. She's an Olympic finalist, of course, last year in Paris. Finished 11th in that Olympic final. Cleared 4:60 there. European under-23 champion back in 2023. Has really always been on the radar of pole vault aficionados. And French athletics anorex. She's a big, big talent at underage level. Won European under-20 silver medal. But here we go. Will it be two French champions on home turf? Or can this man upset the apple cart? Chen Yang Li. He actually passed, it was at 5:70, so straight up to 5:76. Interesting tactics from Li. But nonetheless, he will need this to depose Thierry. 3 attempts to come for Li. First one is not successful. It was always going to be ambitious, but I think if he's putting the bar up that high, you can assume he thinks it's possible. It looks like he's going to take his second and third attempts as well. Already set that personal best by 4 centimeters. It will be a 13 centimeters indoor personal best. It's been such an impressive competition for Chen Yang Li, the 21-year-old Chinese vaulter, but very special to the Poles Baptiste Thierry. So the crowd rises. 4:76 the bar has been put to for Marie-Julie Bonin. And yeah, I'm just looking up there for a moment. The French indoor record is 4:75 by Ninon Guyon-Romarin. Dates back to 2018. Sorry, that is the French outdoor record. So this would be a French record for Bonin. French indoor record is 4:73. Can Marie-Julie Bonin do something extra special on home turf in Bordeaux? 7 years ago, the French outdoor record was set at 4:75. Can Bonin go clear? Not on the first attempt. Not that far away though. She does have the world lead, 4:66, and in front of her home crowd. Why wouldn't she try this? It was such an impressive clearance at 4:66. And although it's early in the season, if she's taken on that bar and her coach is happy to let her take on that bar, it's likely because they know it's possible. Ninon Guyon-Romarin has the French record. but maybe not for long. Marie-Julie Bonin has it in her sights. Of course, Bonin already cleared 470 last summer. Huge personal best indoors this evening. 466. Could she possibly clear 476? Confirmation of the results in the women's competition. Marie-Julie Bonin with that world-leading performance of 466, a personal best indoors by 13 centimetres. Roberta Bruni takes second with 456. Brilliant performance from her. And Sonia Malavisi back in third with 426. Three athletes who are the most accomplished rising to the top on the podium this evening in Bordeaux. So you can see results are confirmed, but none of that crowd are leaving because Marie-Julie Bonin looks ready to take her second attempt at what would be a French outright record of 476. If she could get this, her previous best, as I mentioned, is 470. She did that in July last year outdoors. If she could get to 470, she is really entering the territory of medal contender. Anything over 475 or so really does put you in contention with some of the best women in the world. And Marie-Julie Bonin looks to be well on track for that. As you can see, not a soul has left their seat. Everyone's staying to see if they can witness something special, a bit of French athletics history from this up-and-coming vaulter. She's been up and coming, of course, for a long time. European under-20 medals, European under-23 gold medal, French outdoor title last year at senior level, Olympic final last year. At the age of 23, she just keeps getting better and better under the guidance of coach Daniel Dosevi. And she's going to be given her full-time allotment to just rest, recuperate, gather her energy, start the process again, and see if she can clear a French record of 476. Brilliant atmosphere in the arena there. Plenty free t-shirts been thrown out at the Palais des Sports in Bordeaux. Hats off to the organisers, Stade Bordelais Athlétisme and Objectif Perche Atlantique, amongst the organisers for the World Athletics Indoor Tour bronze level event. The second event on the Perche Tour, a number of other stops, and of course all wraps up at the end of February, 28th of February in Clermont-Ferrand at the Starperche, the most well-known. But a couple more attempts to come for Cheng Yang Li. Baptiste Thierry continues to lead the way, but can Li produce something extra special to depose him? Generous from the crowd there as well, cheering on Lee, even though if he clears it, He will move the Frenchman down to second. But these are athletics fans, and athletics fans can appreciate a good athlete, and that is exactly what Chen Yang-Li is, the 21-year-old Chinese vaulter. His second attempt at 5.76. This would be magnificent if he could get it. As I said, he came to this event with an outright personal best of 5.60. He's already increased that to 5.64. It would be a quantum leap forward to go all the way up to 5.76. That wasn't really close, but he'll have one more attempt. And he's certainly feeling it this evening. Let's see if he can produce something to overtake Baptiste Thierry. He could have moved the bar up to 5.70 because he could now be jumping at 5.70 and jumping for the win at 5.70, but he's decided to go for it all, 5.76. And it would not surprise me if part of the reason for that was to do with qualification. But we'll focus back on the women's competition for the moment, because Marie-Julie Bonin is gathering herself, looking down the runway at what would be a French outright women's pole vault record of 4.76. This would be huge. She came to this event with a indoor personal best of 4.53. She's added 13 centimeters to that. This would add 1 centimeter to the French record. Can Bonin do it on a magic night in Bordeaux? Not quite on the second attempt. She'll have one more try if she chooses to take it. She smiles. She says thank you to the crowd. They've been brilliant with their support. So she'll rest for a few minutes. As you see, it is already a meeting record. It is a massive indoor personal best by 13 centimeters. Only 4 centimeters short of her outright personal best. Marie-Julie Bonin. And we're again eavesdropping on her chat with coach Daniel Decisive. That wasn't really close, you'd have to say. Hit it with the feet on the way up. The adjustments will be made. The chat has been had. And she'll be going back, resting up for a few minutes and trying once more. And what a way it would be to finish the Starperche Bordeaux meeting if she were to go clear at a remarkable 4.76. It's a big ask though, big ask for the 23-year-old. As Zorba's dance starts blasting around the arena. No Greek athletes here this evening. Still though, great song to get everyone in the mood for some special vaulting. So if Chen Yang-Li is not hyped by what's going on in the arena right now, I don't think he'll ever be hyped. But this is a big ask for the youngster, the 21-year-old Chinese vaulter. Set his PB last week of 5.51, raised it to 5.64. Can he possibly go over 5.76? It was a better attempt. It was a much better attempt than his first two, but not to be this evening for Chen Yang-Li. He has to settle for second place behind the Frenchman. Baptiste Thierry takes victory on countback with 5.64. And then it is Song Haoyang of China takes third place. So it is two French champions on home turf at the Starperche Bordeaux. That was a much, much better attempt, and you can see why he probably put the bar up that high, because that is a bar that is certainly achievable for Chen Yang Li with a few slight tweaks, but it's been a fantastic night's work for the 21-year-old vaulter, as it has been for this young woman, 23-year-old Marie-Julie Bonin, Olympic finalist last year, who is certainly not resting on her laurels, has came screaming into the 2025 season with brilliant form, hitting the ground running, soaring high into the sky. 466, a whopping indoor personal best this evening, just shy of her outright personal best. This would be an outright French record. Can Marie-Julie Bonin produce it in Bordeaux? Not this time. Not this time, but she lands with a big smile, and as well she might, because this has been a breakthrough evening for Marie-Julie Bonin. Adds 13 centimeters to her indoor personal best, sets a meeting record, takes victory at the Starperche Bordeaux, the second stage of the Perche Elite Tour. This brilliant tour that hops around France, gathering the best of French vaulters along with many of the best in the world. 4 more stops to go. What a victory it was for Marie-Julie Bonin. 466, gets one over on her rival Roberta Bruni of Italy, who also was brilliant back in second. Well, that just about concludes the action at this edition of the Starperche Bordeaux. It has been a fantastic evening in the French city on the Perche Elite Tour. There are your two champions. On the left, Baptiste Thierry cleared 564 to take victory in that men's event against the challengers who came from China and elsewhere. And then there on the left is Marie-Julie Bonin, who had to stare down and fend off a strong challenge from a pair of formidable Italians. And she soared to new heights indoors, and indoor personal best that is, of 466 for Marie-Julie Bonin, the Stade Bordelais Athlétisme athlete, getting her year off to a flying start on home turf. Well, the smile said it all there from Marie-Julie Bonin, champion on the night, a 13 centimetre indoor personal best, and looking onwards towards the rest of the Perche Elite Tour and indeed the indoor season and indeed the rest of 2025 with great excitement, given she's already cleared 466 in mid-January. Brilliant stuff from her, brilliant stuff from the men's champion Baptiste Thierry, brilliant stuff from all the competitors at the Starperche Bordeaux, the second stage of the Perche Elite Tour. There is confirmation of the women's results. Marie-Julie Bonin with that breakthrough victory, 466 from the Olympic finalists, 10 centimetres ahead of Roberta Bruni, and then it is fellow Italian Sonia Malavisi back in third with 426. In the men's competition, as I mentioned, the challenge to the French home star came from China, and it was Hao Yang Song back in third with 556, and then best putting it up to Baptiste Thierry was Chen Yang Li in second with a PB, a big breakthrough performance from him, the 21-year-old with a 564 clearance, but beaten on countback on the night by the home hero Baptiste Thierry with a clearance of 564, takes victory at the Starperche Bordeaux. It's been another memorable edition in the beautiful arena at the Palais des Sports. Thank you for joining us. Make sure to stay tuned in the weeks ahead to the European Athletics channels. There'll be lots more events live streamed from around the indoor circuit. But for me, Cathal Dennehy, it's been a pleasure to join you here this evening. Goodbye for now.